Quote, "We are in a moment that will test democracy for the ages." Those words are from the man who, without even identifying himself at first, dropped a political bombshell in the form of a warning to the country about Donald Trump that resonates to this hour on this day. We are talking about the former Trump official who, for a time, was known as Anonymous, Miles Taylor. Today, he is filing a complaint asking the Inspectors General of the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice to investigate the legality of the executive order levied against him. Back in April, Donald Trump signed an executive order inside the Oval Office targeting Taylor and former Trump cybersecurity chief Chris Krebs. They committed the sin in Donald Trump's eyes of saying that the 2020 election was the, quote, most secure in history. The executive order revoked their security clearances and tasked officials with investigating both Miles Taylor and Chris Krebs. According to Miles Taylor, the complaints are a test case to see whether independent watchdogs like the IG's offices are still actually independent, or whether they too have been taken off the playing field and co-opted and corrupted by Donald J. Trump, something Taylor has now been warning about publicly at pretty high cost to himself for 7 years. When he first wrote an op-ed in the New York Times as Anonymous, Taylor said Trump was amoral and impetuous, adversarial, petty, and anti-democratic. His comments that Trump cabinet members had discussed invoking the 25th Amendment had the entire country, or at least yours truly, Googling exactly how the 25th Amendment would work. It was, without a doubt, a political earthquake. Watch.
Day 594 of the Trump administration brings a first-person takedown of a president anonymously and in print, as this president is fond of saying, the likes of which we have never seen before.
In a stunning and unprecedented move, the New York Times is publishing a shocking anonymous op-ed from a senior Trump administration official.
The people closest to the president of the United States are sending flashing red warning signals to the American people about the danger this man poses to the nation.
Perhaps you can see the steam emerging from the White House at the moment. Reportedly, Donald Trump's response to all of this has been volcanic, nothing less.
The sudden pulling back of the curtain of the very chaotic Trump White House confirmed what we thought we were seeing from the outside, that there was an active, high-level resistance within the Trump administration to Donald Trump's worst impulses and whims, something that Taylor warned would not happen in a second Trump term. In June of 2023, Taylor wrote this, quote, "People I spoke with predicted widespread career resignations under another MAGA presidency. The result will be a younger civil service without the knowledge, experience, or wherewithal to run government agencies. Mass resignations will be made worse by mass recriminations. A future MAGA president will purge careerists who dare to dissent against the commander-in-chief." Those mass recriminations in Trump 2.0 have included action against Taylor himself. According to Taylor, the Trump administration has found ways big and small to upend his life, again, going so far as to fire a DHS official for attending his wedding. Taylor is, of course, just one of the many people who have found themselves on a list of people targeted by the Trump administration, a list that includes big law firms, universities, media outlets, nonprofits, political action committees. We could go on and on. Taylor calls the orders a, quote, a scalpel that they'll use to ruin the lives of individuals the president is opposed to. A first step in fighting back against Donald Trump's retribution campaign is where we begin with Miles Taylor. How are you doing?
Nicole, I appreciate you having me. We're getting through. It's been a bumpy road, but, you know, as you know, we've kind of done this show before. Coming out against Donald Trump was a rough and tumble exercise. He made it so. But we always knew if he got reelected, his goal would be revenge, and that's exactly what he's trying to carry out.
What is he trying to do to you and your family?
Look, I think he wants to create a modern blacklist and have that blacklist ruin people's lives, because it's a lot of effort to go through with trying to pursue and prosecute hundreds of your enemies. Yeah. All you need to do is try to successfully do that to a couple to send a message. And that's what some of his officials have said is the point of these executive orders against me and Chris Krebs are to send a message. And to a certain extent, that works. I mean, in the immediate wake of this, I'm the sole income earner in my household. I had to leave my job. My wife, who stayed at home with our daughter, had to return to work so that we can buy diapers, so we can buy formula, so we can pay the mortgage. We had to go launch a legal defense fund because we don't think we can pay for the legal bills for this type of thing. And then there's the security threats, which I know you're all too familiar with, but you get crazies coming out of the woodwork from the MAGA side who will dox you and your family members and send threatening messages, and you never know which one of those is going to become the real thing. I'll add to that, Nicole. Someone told us relatively recently, you guys need to go update your last will and testament to name a guardian for your daughter. I will tell you, that's not something you take lightly when you're sitting there with your wife and a lawyer signing documents to name a guardian in case the worst happens, because we don't know what's going to happen. That's how serious it is, and that's just being named on the blacklist. Charges haven't happened yet. They haven't raided our house yet. But that's what it looks like in modern day America when the president adds you to that list.
What do they think they're looking for if they proceed to try to scrounge through your life?
That's a big question, because normally if you see some sort of criminal case or federal review taking place, you sort of know what they're looking into. Look, if you stole money from the petty cash drawer, you know you stole money from the petty cash drawer. In this case, it's an investigation without a predicate. It's an investigation meant to just be punitive. When this happened the day after, Wall Street Journal came out and they called it a fishing expedition. And that's sort of how we feel that this is proceeding. We have no idea what they're going to try to find. But I can remember being in the Oval Office with Donald Trump, and I think I've shared this with you before, as he talked about how in business, you don't threaten to sue people because then they just blow you off. You sue them so they settle. And he said that to us. He talked about his view on getting leverage. And I suspect that's what they're trying to do right now. And it's very destructive, not just to us, but all the people around us that it affects.
You have lawyers. You said you're raising money for a legal defense fund. What is that like? I mean, do you strategize with a legal team? Are they talking to the justice? I mean, are they trying to have more visibility into what is actually happening and whether it is, as you said, just an attempt to get you to bend the knee in some way? And would you ever do that?
Well, look, I think this is something that people really need to know. And it's one of the reasons we're speaking out about this, is my wife and I had a lot of conversations, because people tell you, hey, keep your head down, maybe it'll blow over. But we know this guy. We don't think this will blow over. And even if it did, I'm a guy from a small town in Indiana, and you don't just watch something this wrong happen and not say something. And we know that that means we're going to have to take more punches if we're out there. But this is just wrong. And one of the things I think people don't realize is the fear in the legal community right now makes it very, very hard for someone to go get the representation they need. Now, I'm lucky. I've had incredible people like Abby Lowell, who represented not only Jared Kushner, but Hunter Biden all across the aisle, and a lot of different fantastic people come forward to help. But what if you're number 25 on that list? What if you're number 60 on that list and the president has ordered an investigation into you? Will you be able to get the legal support you need? I was lucky an organization called Whistleblower Aid came forward. They've launched something called endpresidentialrevenge.org as a place to go raise funds for people who are targeted for their public service by this White House. But if it wasn't for that support, we'd be in a very, very difficult position. And our first thought, I'm not going to lie, I mean, we sat there at the kitchen table after this order dropped. We were in the driveway when it happened, and we went inside, and Hannah looked at me and she said, do you think we're going to lose the House? And I said, I don't know.
What is your sort of getting through day to day? Like, how much are you looking at the horizon of when this ends, and how much are you just trying to put one foot in front of the other?
It really is a day-to-day thing. I mean, you know, the other piece that I would share, which people don't talk about, and it's kind of humiliating to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about, is social isolation. And you hear about this when you read about autocracies, and it's kind of a textbook thing. Okay, dissidents and autocracies, they end up socially isolated, and that's the goal. But it's very foreign and remote until it happens to you. And I've had very close friends, very, very close friends, call and tell me, I'm going to need to keep my distance until this is all over.
Why?
Because they've got a business interest maybe with the federal government, because they're worried about the impact on their families. So that support system you think is going to be there with you in the trenches, whether it's through a divorce or a death or persecution from your government, starts to vanish. There are even some family members who you find out are skittish about being there, given the gravity of the situation. That is very hard. And you end up with a very different circle than you imagined. Again, that's before there's charges, that's before there's anything. But I mean, we've spent the past 2 months totally watching the re-implosion of our lives and building back from that. But I tell you all this, Nicole, again, not so that people play the violin for me, but because it's as easy as the president signing his pen to a piece of paper to order a revenge investigation against an American right now. This could be happening to anyone, and that's why we've decided to step out. That's why we've decided to start taking legal steps, because we can't let this become the norm. No president of any political party should be able to just order revenge investigations and criminalize criticism, and that's what we want to try to stop.